My name is Alice Parker, 36 years old, a communications director in Dallas. I will never forget the moment I walked into the family party, where everyone was clapping to welcome a special guest. My heart dropped when I realized that the guest was the woman my husband, Ryan, had been whispering on the phone with for months. He sat there, smiling at her while my family cheerfully praised them as if they were two shining stars. Have you ever been betrayed right in the place that was supposed to be the safest? What would you do if you discovered your own family had unknowingly encouraged the very person who was destroying your marriage? Leave a comment, hit like, and subscribe so I can share the full story with you. Before the storm hit, my life had seemed peaceful enough that I thought nothing could shake it. Ryan and I had been married for 11 years. We had a 9-year-old daughter named Sophie, our little girl with soft curls and eyes that lit up like a lake in the sunshine. Sophie was the center of my universe, the reason I endured long, exhausting days at work, the source of energy that made me believe our family was fine, despite the tiny cracks I chose to ignore. Ryan, my husband, was a well-known real estate agent in Dallas. He had always been seen as the dream man of my family. Polite, well-mannered, with a steady job and an image of being caring toward both sides of the family. My parents adored him almost like their own son. Whenever friends or relatives gathered, my mother would praise Ryan for being ambitious and family-oriented. She even hinted more than once that I was lucky to have married him. Honestly, in the early years of our marriage, I believed that too. Ryan worked hard, brought home a stable income, and kept me from having to worry too much about money. He often took Sophie and me out for weekend dinners or surprised us with a small cake for anniversaries, even if he sometimes forgot the exact date. I never demanded perfection. To me, a warm home was enough. And I had gotten used to Ryan's little habits, like leaving empty beer cans scattered across the living room, or socks tossed on the sofa instead of in the laundry basket. I used to nag him, "Ryan, we don't have a maid here. If you finish a drink, throw it away." He'd laugh, raising both hands as if surrendering. "Sorry. I'll clean it tomorrow." And of course, tomorrow became the day after, then the weekend. I'd shake my head while picking up the cans, a little annoyed but telling myself, if this is the worst thing about him, what do I really have to complain about? Most evenings after dinner, Ryan would sit with Sophie, helping her with math homework or building block towers. Hearing them laugh in the living room, I often thought I was lucky. A part of me, truthfully, even felt grateful that Ryan had won my family's admiration so completely. My father often said, "Alice, you chose the right man. Ryan is a solid rock you can count on." Every time I heard that, I'd smile, half believing, half convincing myself he was right. Yet my family's favoritism sometimes made me feel small in my own marriage. Whenever I tried to share about disagreements between us, my mother would wave it off. "Men all have their flaws. What matters is he provides for the family. Don't be too hard on him." That sentence felt like a curtain, covering every fault of Ryan's as something forgivable, while my feelings were brushed aside. I wanted to argue, but I stayed silent. I didn't want to be seen as the unlucky wife in my parents' eyes. There were times Ryan and I argued, usually over small things. His work schedule clashing with family plans or him forgetting to pick Sophie up on time. But as soon as he brought home a small bouquet or cooked a simple dinner, I softened again. I comforted myself, thinking every marriage has its minor conflicts. I still remember one summer evening, the three of us sat on the porch drinking lemonade. Sophie ran around with a little flashlight, pretending to catch fireflies. Ryan wrapped an arm around me, whispering, "I'm happy to have you and our daughter." Back then, I believed him. Believed so deeply that I never suspected the darkness hiding behind those tender words. Maybe it was exactly that blind trust that kept me from seeing the truth. I was used to hearing my family praise him, used to friends admiring him, used to the image of a busy yet devoted man. To everyone else, Ryan was so perfect that even I, his wife, sometimes felt undeserving. But life has a cruel sense of irony. Cracks often appear just when you think your house is strongest. I once thought if my marriage ever failed, it would be because of small things like beer cans or tossed socks. I had no idea that what threatened my family was far greater, far more cunning. For 11 years, I had painted myself a picture of an almost perfect family. A husband respected by everyone, a sweet daughter, a sunlit home on weekends. But that picture, I didn't realize, could fall apart if even one piece was swapped out. If someone had asked me then, I would have said, "My family is fine. We have small issues, but who doesn't?" I truly believed that. Because, like so many women, I wanted to believe in the good. I wanted to believe I had chosen the right man, that a decade of building wasn't an illusion. Then I began noticing changes in Ryan that were no longer harmless quirks I could overlook. He suddenly cared about his appearance in an unusual way. The man who had worn khakis as formal for over a decade now bought designer shirts, tailored trousers, and luxury leather belts. In the mornings while I made breakfast for Sophie, Ryan stood before the mirror for long minutes, adjusting ties and spraying a cologne I'd never seen in our house before. The unfamiliar scent filled the bedroom, rich, foreign, making me feel as though another man was living under my roof. One day I teased him, "How many new things did you buy? You look like you're getting ready for a magazine cover." Ryan laughed, his tone a little forced. "In real estate, image is everything. I want clients to see me as more professional." I nodded, but unease lingered. This was the same man who once walked confidently in scuffed shoes. Now he needed expensive clothes to feel professional? The reason sounded logical but not true. His absences from home grew more frequent. Before, no matter how busy, Ryan always tried to make it home for dinner at least a few nights a week. Now, house showings on weekends and networking dinners at night suddenly filled his calendar. I kept count of how many times Sophie asked, "Mom, is Dad eating with us tonight?" And I had to answer with forced casualness, "He's busy with clients, honey. But he'll make it up this weekend." Sophie frowned, then fell quiet, disappointment plain on her small face. The sight pierced me inside. His phone habits changed too. He used to keep the sound on so I could call when needed. Lately, the sound was always off, the phone lying face down on the table. Whenever a message came through, he'd snatch it up and leave the room claiming urgent client questions. Once while we were watching a movie, his phone buzzed. Ryan glanced at it, tension flashing across his eyes before he quickly turned off the screen. I asked, "Who was that?" He answered quickly, almost cutting me off, "Just a coworker. Nothing important." I said nothing more, but suspicion settled in me, impossible to shake. With my background in communications, I was trained to analyze data, to spot irregularities in campaigns. And the same way, the odd pieces in my family life stood out clearly to me. I began checking the work schedule he shared through our app. His calendar was full of appointments, but when I cross-checked with the online real estate listings, many addresses didn't exist. Many client meetings left no trace at all. I clearly remember one night when Sophie was already asleep. I sat in front of my laptop with sweaty palms. I opened the detailed phone bill, the one I usually check to balance expenses. This time, instead of skimming like always, I scrutinized every outgoing and incoming number. A strange sequence kept repeating almost every day, usually during work hours or late at night. The calls lasted 45 minutes, sometimes a full hour. That couldn't possibly be a regular client. Homebuyers don't spend an hour on the phone every night. Fear mixed with anger. Why was he doing this? And why did I, a woman who always believed in honesty, have to sit here like a detective in my own home? The next day I tried to probe. "Hey, do you have new clients lately? You seem really busy." Ryan shrugged, his eyes shifting away. "Yeah, the market's competitive. I've got to nurture relationships." I looked into his eyes, the same eyes that had reassured me for years, and now saw distance in the glimmer of lies. In the weeks that followed, his changes became even clearer. In the mornings, Ryan left home early, saying he had meetings with clients on the north side of the city. At night, he came home late, sometimes with a trace of perfume on his shirt that wasn't mine. I tried to calm myself. Maybe I was overthinking, maybe it was just air freshener from some office. But my instincts told me otherwise. I remember one rainy night when Ryan came home close to midnight. I was sitting in the living room, a yellow lamp shining over unfinished documents. He walked in, shirt slightly wrinkled, tie loosened. "Why so late?" He smiled, a strange smile. Picky clients, they wanted to see houses until late. I tried to catch something in his eyes, but he quickly bent down to take off his shoes, as if ending the conversation. Sophie woke in the middle of the night, stumbling down the stairs with her teddy bear, her voice sleepy. "Daddy, you promised to read me a story." Ryan froze for a second, then walked over to hug her, apologizing. But in Sophie's eyes, I saw a tiny crack, childlike trust beginning to waver. I began jotting down every detail. The nights he came home late, the hours of each call, even the foreign scents on his clothes. My work habits turned me into an analyst, collecting data, searching for patterns. And the more I recorded, the clearer the picture of deception became. Still, I wasn't brave enough to confront him outright. Part of me feared the truth would shatter the family. Part of me needed certainty. I couldn't let Ryan twist things, painting me as paranoid. So I chose silence, watching, gathering more evidence. Some nights, lying beside him, listening to his steady breathing, I asked myself, does this man still belong to me? Does he remember that beside him is the wife who has stood with him for over a decade? Or is his mind already somewhere else? That shift, from scattered beer cans to luxury clothes, from familiar glances to secretive eyes, told me one thing with certainty. My marriage was standing on the edge of a storm. I had grown used to Ryan carrying that shadow into every action, but it wasn't until one night alone in my office, staring at the glowing laptop screen, that the truth began to surface. That month's phone bill was unusually long. The same number repeated, a familiar sequence filling hundreds of lines. I circled it with a red pen, my hand trembling so badly the writing slanted. And then, in a moment I dreaded, I typed that number into the search bar. A name appeared, Clara Mitchell. Clara, 34 years old. I found her on social media after a few clicks. Photos unfolded like a polished advertisement. Morning meditation on a yoga mat, breakfast with a green smoothie and whole grain toast, radiant smiles beside her husband Ethan Mitchell, a graphic designer with a gentle face and eyes that never left his wife. Scrolling further, I saw their wedding anniversary photos with captions dripping with affection. 5 years and I still feel the same as the first time I held your hand. In several photos, a little boy, clearly their son, beamed between them, clutching both parents' hands as if their family was unbreakable. I couldn't breathe. This woman hadn't only entered my life through secret calls, she had built herself a perfect facade. Devoted wife, professional, successful. I collapsed into my chair, head spinning. Images of Ryan's late-night smiles merged with Clara's bright face on the screen. So those client meetings he used as excuses were actually with a woman cloaked in the costume of perfect happiness, deceiving everyone. With my media skills, I knew how to dig deeper. I checked the location history on Ryan's phone, something he never thought I'd touch. Green dots appeared consistently, matching the times from the phone bill. Restaurants downtown, small cafes in the suburbs, and most damning of all, several stops in a northern neighborhood, the same address listed for Clara on Google. The sense of betrayal surged, painful, nauseating. I clutched my head asking, why me? After 11 years, after all the promises, why would he choose to betray me in the cruelest way? But the real shock hadn't even come yet. A week later, my family hosted a charity gala, an annual event my mother organized to raise community funds. I helped prepare the guest list, but didn't have time to review every detail. On the night of the event, when the MC announced, "Please welcome talented interior designer Clara Mitchell, who will be partnering with us on the community center renovation project," my wine glass nearly slipped from my hand. Clara walked into the hall in a navy blue dress, golden hair cascading over her shoulders. She smiled broadly, waving to the crowd like a star. People around me gasped, praising a stylish, accomplished woman. My mother leaned toward me, whispering with excitement, "Alice, look at Clara. This is the kind of person worth partnering with long-term." Every cell in my body screamed a warning. The woman from Ryan's phone, the one he met behind my back, was now standing in the spotlight, celebrated by my own family. I forced a stiff smile, trying to hide the trembling in my hands. Ryan, of course, was also at the event. He wore a gray suit, his face unusually bright. I caught the fleeting glance he gave Clara. Just a second, but enough to see the strange light in his eyes, joy, unease he couldn't disguise. My heart pounded, my fingers gripping the glass tight. I heard my father speaking to Ryan, his voice enthusiastic. "Clara is truly talented. If you can connect with her, your business could benefit a lot." Ryan nodded, his smile stiff, his expression betraying discomfort. I saw it, though no one else did. All evening I felt like an outsider in my own family. They talked about Clara, praised her style, discussed upcoming projects, while I felt pushed to the margins. Sophie tugged at my hand. "Mom, Miss Clara is so pretty. I want to learn to draw like her." I bent down and smiled at my daughter, but inside something clenched tight. My innocent child was already beginning to admire the very woman I knew was tearing our home apart. The scene was both bitter and ironic. My family, my own child, even they were charmed by Clara's polished image, while I was the only one who knew the truth. As everyone raised their glasses in celebration, I stood still, my mind spinning. I felt like I had fallen into a play where everyone else knew their role, and only I sat in the audience seeing reality. That night when the gala ended, Ryan drove me home. The air in the car was thick, heavy. I looked at him, streetlights casting shadows across his pensive face. I asked, my voice calm but each word slicing the air, "How long have you known Clara?" Ryan flinched slightly, then quickly regained composure. "Oh, it's just work. She's a designer, you know. In this field, collaboration is normal." I turned my face toward the window, smiling coldly. Normal? I knew all too well the kind of normal he was trying to cover up. That night, I lay next to Ryan, but it felt like an entire ocean separated us. He slept peacefully while I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the ticking of the clock. I knew that from the moment Clara stepped into that party, my life would never be the same again. In that instant, when Ryan's eyes met Clara's across the crowded hall, I knew I had seen a truth no one could deny. It wasn't vague suspicion anymore. It wasn't merely phone bill numbers or faint marks on a location map. It was a flash of light in their eyes, an awkward smile between two people who pretended to be strangers. And I, the wife who had lived beside Ryan for over 10 years, was sensitive enough to recognize it. Clara sat at the table of honor, Ryan at the opposite side, but their eyes constantly sought each other. Soon, small nods, faint smiles, silent exchanges became knives twisting into my chest. I sipped my wine, forcing a calm face, but my palms were cold and damp. My family didn't notice a thing. My father turned to Ryan, his voice full of excitement. "Do you see? Working with someone like Clara is as good as striking gold. She's young, creative, knows how to connect. This is a relationship we can't afford to miss." My mother added, "Alice, you should learn from Clara. She's graceful, confident, everyone loves her. How fortunate to have someone like her joining these projects." I listening to every compliment, feeling as if the whole room leaned the other way, letting me fall into an invisible void. My family wasn't praising the woman intruding on my marriage. They were unknowingly lifting her above me. Part of me wanted to scream the truth, to point at Clara and say, "Do you even know who you're praising? Do you know she's tearing apart your daughter's family?" But I held it in. The pain turned into a thick layer of ice in my chest, suffocating me. Ryan pretended to keep his distance, avoiding Clara's gaze too long. But the nervous flicker in his eyes, the way he twisted his glass, the faint redness on his collar when she laughed, all betrayed the truth. While my father and several older guests talked enthusiastically, Clara turned to me, offering a polite smile. Her eyes sparkled, but beneath them I saw a cold veil, the look of someone who knew she held control. I smiled back, polite enough to hide the cracks in my heart. When the party calmed, I found an excuse to slip onto the balcony for air. Inside, laughter and clinking glasses continued. The night breeze carried a sting of cold. Would they ever take my side if they knew the truth? Ryan came out, feigning surprise. "What are you doing out here? Everyone's looking for you inside." I kept my tone steady. "I needed some air." He nodded, leaning against the railing, his eyes drifting away. I saw the restlessness, the tension he tried to mask. I wanted to ask, "Do you know your eyes betrayed me before your words ever could?" But I swallowed the question, leaving only a heavy silence between us. That night when we returned home, I hoped for some comfort from my family. Instead, my mother kept repeating her admiration for Clara. "That girl is truly talented. With her support, the community project will shine. Alice, you should get closer to Clara." I answered flatly, "Yes." In the days that followed, the isolation grew sharper. Whenever I tried to bring up my suspicions, my mother brushed them off. "You're too paranoid. Ryan's a good man, Clara's a professional. Don't make things harder for yourself." My father's voice was stern. "You need to trust your husband. If you're always suspicious, no marriage can last." I knew that in their eyes I was the difficult one, while Ryan and Clara were perfect. That feeling cut deeper each day, leaving me utterly alone among my closest kin. One evening, after Sophie had fallen asleep, I sat in the dark living room. Ryan walked in, reaching for the switch, but I spoke, "Don't." He stopped, looking at me in the dim light. I asked, "Do you have anything you want to tell me?" Ryan hesitated, then forced a stiff smile. "I don't know what you're implying." "You've been too tense lately, Alice." That answer was like a final blow, pushing me deeper into isolation. After that night at the party, I knew I couldn't keep waiting for a confession from Ryan. He was too skilled at building facades, too used to hiding behind smiles and half-hearted embraces. If I confronted him, he would twist it and my family would defend him as always. I needed another path, quiet, certain, leaving him no chance to turn it back on me. The name Ethan Mitchell kept flashing in my mind. The man with the gentle smile in Clara's photos. The husband who left sweet comments under her posts, writing captions filled with love. In his eyes I saw trust, naive and heartbreaking. He didn't know his wife was using that very love as a cover for betrayal. I began to plan. As a communications director, I often worked with graphic designers for campaigns. Ethan, being a designer, wouldn't think it strange if I reached out for work. A meeting framed as professional collaboration was the perfect cover to approach him. I drafted a short email, professional yet intriguing. I explained that my company was seeking a designer for a new branding project and asked to meet in person to discuss details. I suggested a small cafe downtown, one I knew Ryan and Clara had never visited. My fingers trembled slightly as I hit send, as if opening a door to an entirely new chapter. 2 hours later, Ethan replied. His tone was enthusiastic, polite, with thanks for considering him. I reread the email several times, feeling both sympathy and sorrow. He was too trusting, too genuine, unaware that this meeting would change everything. On the day of the meeting, I arrived 10 minutes early. The cafe was softly lit, jazz playing in the background. I chose a table by the window, took a deep breath to steady myself. Soon Ethan walked in, tall in a simple shirt, kind-faced. He looked around, then smiled when he saw me raise my hand. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Alice," he said, shaking my hand firmly. "Thank you for your time. I think this collaboration could be good for both sides." We began with work talk. Ethan shared creative ideas, his voice animated, eyes bright when he spoke of design. I nodded, but my mind kept observing. In every word I heard a man who loved his craft, loved life, and most of all, loved his wife blindly. After nearly 30 minutes, I decided to test the waters. I leaned in slightly, speaking casually. "You must be busy. I hear Clara's juggling a lot of interior projects too, isn't she?" At the mention of his wife, Ethan froze for a moment, then smiled. "Yeah, she's been really busy. Sometimes I barely see her. She often says she has clients wanting to view homes on weekends, or late-night consultations. I want to complain, but if it's for work, I let it go." He laughed weakly, but a flicker of doubt passed through his eyes. I seized the chance, speaking slowly. "Have you ever felt that schedule seemed unusual?" I asked because, in this industry, I've seen people use work as a cover for other things. Ethan remained wordless, the pause stretching between us. He turned his coffee cup in his hands, eyes down. "Honestly, there have been times I thought it was strange," he admitted softly. "She said she was with female clients, but when I called, the line was busy. When I texted, she didn't reply right away. I told myself I was overthinking, but it's getting harder to ignore." His voice cracked, as if saying it aloud might shatter the dream of his marriage. I looked at him and saw myself. A reflection. The loneliness, the struggle when your instincts scream but your reason clings to hope. I drew in a deep breath, choosing not to circle around anymore. "Ethan, I think we both need the truth. And the truth is often painful, but it sets us free. Do you know something?" In that moment, I knew there was no turning back. I told him about the phone bills, the location history, the nights Ryan was absent. I spoke steadily, no accusations, no dramatics, just raw facts. His hands clenched, then leaned back in his chair, eyes hollow. "God," he whispered. "I don't want to believe it, but everything matches too perfectly." The sound of a spoon clinking against porcelain from the next table echoed unervingly clear. Then Ethan sighed, turning to me. "What do we do now?" This was the moment I had been waiting for. I couldn't fight alone, but with Ethan we wouldn't be silent victims of betrayal anymore. Together we could reflect the truth, forcing Ryan and Clara to see their own faces in the mirror. In public, in front of the very people they had tried to deceive. I whispered, almost naming it to myself. Operation Mirror. We'll make them see themselves in the mirror in front of everyone. If you do it, I'll do it too. I can't let Clara keep lying, making me a fool. We clinked coffee cups, an unspoken vow between us. In that moment, I didn't feel completely alone anymore. I had an ally, someone who hurt as I did and who chose with me to turn that pain into strength. The day of the fateful dinner drew near, and Ethan and I planned every detail carefully. Everything had to appear natural, a coincidence, so Ryan and Clara would suspect nothing. I invited Ryan to a networking dinner, hosted by my company for media partners. He agreed immediately, his face even a little eager. He always enjoyed occasions to wear his new suits, confident in the role of a successful man. Ethan had no trouble inviting Clara either. He told his wife that a new client wanted to discuss an office redesign and needed her input. Clara agreed, smiling confidently. Neither of them knew they were walking straight into the mirror we had set up. The restaurant was a luxurious spot in downtown Dallas, golden lights shimmering on crystal glasses. I chose a simple but sharp black dress, enough to steady myself in the game where I held the reins. Ethan was already seated at a round table by the window, his face calm though his eyes betrayed tension. Ryan arrived first, carrying the cologne scent I knew too well. He smiled, placing his hand on my back as if we were the perfect couple. You really surprised me. This place is amazing. I nodded, lips pressed into a thin smile. Moments later, Clara appeared. A pearl-colored silk dress hugged her frame, blonde hair cascading loosely. She entered as if the entire room had been staged for her. Spotting Ethan, she froze slightly, then quickly regained composure. I didn't think you'd be here, Clara said, her smile stiff. I'm the one who invited you, Ethan replied evenly. We sat down, 4 people for chairs, but only 2 of us knew we were part of a play already scripted. The air grew heavy, each breath weighed down. The waiter poured wine, filling every glass. I lifted mine, speaking lightly. I think tonight is a good chance for us to share what's still unclear. Ryan chuckled, thinking it was the start of a business discussion. Exactly. Networking. You always know how to connect people. But I didn't answer. I looked straight into his eyes. Ryan faltered, his gaze sliding away. Clara shifted uncomfortably, twisting her napkin. Ethan's voice cut through the heavy pause. He set his phone on the table, pressing play on a recording. Clara's voice rang out, familiar, warped by the solemn atmosphere. Being with you makes me feel young again. I can't stand coming home to play the perfect wife. With you I feel truly alive. The words slashed through the room like a blade. Clara's face drained of color as she lunged forward. Ethan, where did you get that? You were spying on me. I didn't have to, Ethan said bitterly. You left the trail yourself. Ryan panicked, rushing in. There must be a mistake. Clara, maybe this was a client. I cut him off, pulling printed papers from my purse. Copies of messages. I spread them on the table, letting the light fall across familiar lines. Ryan's text, Thursday 12:30, same place. Don't forget that dress you mentioned. Ryan's face turned crimson, his mouth opening without words. Clara turned away, her hands trembling. The restaurant went silent. Diners at nearby tables stopped eating, eyes fixed on us. You call this networking? Or is it a different kind of connection I never knew about? Ethan turned to his wife, his voice cracking. Clara, can you look me in the eye and say this isn't true? Clara stammered, then dropped her head. I didn't mean to. It all got out of hand. Ethan let out a laugh, the most bitter laugh I had ever heard. Out of hand? 6 weeks, same time, same place? That's what you call out of hand. I didn't take my eyes off Ryan. He struggled to sound calm. Alice, you have to understand. This means nothing. It was only temporary. Temporary. I cut in, my hand shaking with fury. 11 years of marriage, a 9-year-old daughter, and you call repeated betrayal temporary? Some waiters hovered, unsure whether to intervene. Clara lowered her head. I'm sorry. Don't apologize to me. Apologize to your husband, the man who loved you blindly. Ethan sat frozen, his eyes red. I saw in him the same pain I had once felt. Ryan reached for me. Alice, let's go home and talk privately. Don't do this here. I pushed his hand away, my voice sharp. You chose public places for your meetings. So I chose a public place to end it. Scattered applause rose from a distant table. Not encouragement but the final clapping at the end of a play. I watching the two across from me flounder in the swamp of lies they had created. Ryan drew a deep breath, his eyes darting. He forced a faint smile, his voice trembling yet desperate. Alice, you know, everything you've seen is a misunderstanding. Claire and there's nothing. This is only work misinterpreted. The words spilled clumsily, weak as rags trying to patch a bleeding wound. Clara sat beside him, tears streaming, her hand covering her face. Ethan, I'm sorry. Please believe me. It's not what you think. I made a mistake. Ethan gave a dry, hollow laugh that echoed in the still room. His fingers tapped the table, each beat heavy with rage. Not what I think. Clara, 6 weeks, same time, same place, and now texts and recordings laid bare. Do you expect me to believe it's all in my imagination? Clara broke down, sobbing. I didn't want it to go this far. Ethan's voice cut like iron, every word landing hard. Didn't want it to go far? You pushed it far the moment you betrayed me. You turned our marriage into a joke. The restaurant was hushed, every diner watching. I heard cutlery pause, whispers rise and then fade. Everyone knew they were witnessing a family unravel in real time. I turned to Ryan. His eyes were bloodshot, sweat beading on his forehead. Do you have anything left to say to me? He reached out, pleading, Alice, please. We have a child, we have 11 years of marriage. I was wrong, but I never meant to hurt you. The words from my heart broke free. You didn't betray me, Ryan. You made me a fool in front of my family. You let them celebrate a woman who stole another woman's husband, while I was pushed aside like I was invisible. Ryan remained motionless, shame distorting his face. Clara sobbed, turning to Ethan, reaching for her husband's arm. Ethan, please, give me another chance. I still love you. Ethan yanked his arm away, his eyes ice cold. Love me? You call this love? You left me at home waiting while you sneaked out with another woman's husband, and you turned me into a fool in front of everyone. Clara broke down in tears, but no one reached out to pull her up anymore. I could feel every gaze in the restaurant fixed on me. Strangely, I didn't feel shame. Instead, there was a suffocating relief. Finally, the truth had been spoken, undeniable. The crowd murmured, some eyes sympathetic, others curious, but all had become unwilling witnesses. An older man at a nearby table shook his head, whispering loud enough for me to hear, a pity. But sometimes the truth needs to be seen. I stood, gripping my purse tightly. Ryan tried to reach for me, but I stopped him with a sharp glare. Ethan also rose, his shoulders trembling as he held back his emotions. He turned to Clara, his voice firm. From today on, I'm no longer the man blinded by you. It's over. I turned my back, walking slowly past the long row of tables. I had spoken. I had let everyone see the truth. And that was what kept me steady. Behind me, the restaurant remained silent, except for the ragged breathing of two unmasked betrayers. Ryan packed up and left the house. No long explanations. He knew too well that with the evidence Ethan and I had laid out, there was no room for excuses. The divorce went through faster than I ever imagined. My lawyer barely had to lift a finger. Everything was already clear. Texts, recordings, location history, even Ryan's clumsy admissions at the restaurant that night. It took the judge only minutes to decide. I kept the house, custody of Sophie was mine, and Ryan would pay monthly support. The day he left, Sophie sat on the steps, hugging her teddy bear. She looked up at me with wide, innocent eyes. Mom, Daddy isn't going to be here anymore? I pulled her close, my voice trembling but firm. Daddy will live somewhere else, but Mommy will always be here with you. And we're going to be okay, Sophie. She stayed quiet, holding me tighter. In that moment, I knew the luxury of weakness was gone for me. As for Clara, her downfall came even faster than Ryan's. Word of that restaurant scene spread through the interior design community faster than any PR campaign. Clients who once praised her taste canceled contracts. Magazines pulled her photos from their features. From a so-called rising star, Clara became a name spoken in hushed tones and wary glances. Ethan was different. He filed for divorce almost immediately. His voice was calm, but his hands were clenched until his knuckles whitened. I don't want to hold on anymore. What I need now is custody of my son and peace for him. The court agreed. Ethan was granted primary custody, citing stability and the evidence he presented. I saw in his eyes a deep sorrow, but also the determination to protect his child from the same deceit we had both endured. And me, after everything, standing amid the ashes of the marriage I once thought would last a lifetime, I chose to start over. I resigned from my old job, the place where I had forced smiles and meetings while Ryan's messages flashed on my screen. I used the settlement money and my savings to open a small communications company. I named it Phoenix Communications, the phoenix rising from the ashes. Dramatic perhaps, but exactly how I felt. On opening day, Sophie dashed around the little office with its freshly painted white walls. She squealed, "Mom, is this your new workplace? I like that corner. Can we put my drawing table there?" I laughed, pulling her into a hug. "Of course. This will be the place where you and I start our new journey together." What I didn't expect was for Ethan to appear in that journey, not as a broken husband but as a partner. One day, I received an email from him. "Alice, I heard your new company might need design support. If you don't mind, I'd like to try working together." I reread it several times, then smiled. Out of ruin, something solid could still be built. I called him back, my voice soft. "Ethan, I need someone I can trust. And you're the first person I thought of." In those early days, we spent hours in the small office, debating logo colors and every tagline. Ethan was meticulous, creative. I was used to seeing the bigger picture, building strategy. Two pieces that once seemed separate turned out to fit seamlessly. One late night, while Sophie dozed off on the office sofa, Ethan and I were still tweaking the final design. He looked up, meeting my eyes, and said quietly, "Alice, thank you. Without you, I'd probably still be sitting in that house, believing I was a happy man." I froze, then answered, "No, Ethan. Thank you. Because of you, I found the courage to face the truth." We shared a wordless pause, yet it carried no weight anymore. It was understanding, a quiet belief that no matter how dark the past had been, the road ahead could still shine if walked with someone who truly understood. Time passed. Phoenix Communications secured its first contracts. Ethan became design director and I managed the business. The once empty walls now held Sophie's drawings and our new design projects. One day, in a meeting room, Ethan smiled. "We turned their betrayal into the foundation of something new. Life has its strange jokes, doesn't it? Strange, but beautiful in its own way." I knew healing was still a long journey. But for the first time in years, my heart felt light. I was done being the woman left alone in a dark house. Done being the wife reduced to a joke before her family. I was a mother, an independent woman rebuilding myself from fragments. And beside me was a friend, slowly becoming a soulmate, helping me write a new story. 1 year later, I stood backstage at a large hall in Dallas. Applause thundered like a heartbeat, golden lights from hundreds of bulbs shimmering across the room. The announcer had called my name. "This year's Woman of Vision Award goes to Alice Parker, founder of Phoenix Communications." I stepped onto the stage, heels tapping softly on the red carpet, my heart swelling with emotions I could barely describe. Exactly 1 year ago, I had sat alone in a dark room, wrapped in betrayal and loneliness. And now I stood in the spotlight, not as an abandoned wife, but as a woman reborn from the ruins. In the crowd, I spotted Sophie, 10 years old, in a simple blue dress, waving with a beaming smile. Beside her, Ethan smiled too, his eyes warm, calm. He was not only my partner but also my confidant, walking beside me through the hardest days. I felt the weight of loneliness lift. I took the crystal trophy in my hands, drew a deep breath, and began to speak. "A year ago, I thought my life was over. I lost my marriage, my trust, and I thought I had nothing left to stand on. But then I realized, sometimes ruin is the strongest foundation to rebuild a new life." The audience erupted in murmurs of applause, but I continued, my voice stronger. "They thought they could bury me under lies and betrayal. But from those ashes I rebuilt my life. And today I stand here to say, revenge isn't always about destroying others. Sometimes the sweetest revenge is standing stronger than ever." The hall exploded in thunderous applause. I bowed slightly, my eyes blurring when I saw Sophie jumping on her seat, shouting, "That's my mom." Ethan turned to her, placing a hand on her shoulder, laughing brightly. I suddenly remembered those early days when he and I sat in the tiny office designing the first Phoenix logo. Back then we were both broken pieces. Now we were building a new journey, not on lies but on trust and respect. After the ceremony, we stepped outside. The evening sky glowed golden, the air carrying the scent of spring. Sophie skipped ahead, clutching her worn teddy bear, the only gift Ryan had ever given her that she still kept. But now it no longer carried sorrow. It was simply a companion of her childhood. Ethan walked beside me, gazing toward the park ahead. His voice was warm, steady. "Alice, seeing you on that stage today, I realized you've truly stepped out of the darkness. You're not the woman marked by betrayal, you're the one inspiring others." I smiled, a lightness spreading through me. Maybe because for the first time in my life I'm living for myself. Together with Sophie, we walked down the path lined with young leaves. Her laughter rang across the park. I glanced at Ethan, catching his eyes, the eyes of someone who had known deep loss, but also believed in renewal. The sun dipped low, gilding the sky, stretching our three shadows across the grass. My steps no longer felt heavy. Each stride, each laugh from Sophie, each look from Ethan, they all confirmed that my new chapter had truly begun. As the golden light faded, I understood this story was not only my journey, but a reminder to anyone who's lived through ruin. Sometimes we think we've fallen, but in that fragile moment, a new strength is born. I had been betrayed, dismissed even in my own family. But now I chose to rise, to rebuild my life with my own hands. And I believe anyone can do the same. Rediscover their worth, turning pain into the foundation for the next step. What about you? If you were in my place, would you choose to stay silent and endure, or bravely expose the truth? Share your thoughts in the comments. I truly want to hear your stories. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next stories about family, love, and resilience. There are many journeys I want to share, so together we can find strength, even in our weakest moments.